Welcome to the Vantage Doers web series. This web series is brought to you by Vantage Circle. In this web series, we bring you practical lessons from the trenches, the how-to guides. We will discuss the best tactics that can help you rethink your employee engagement strategy with actionable approaches and solutions.
Hi everyone. So we are right on the dot at 3 p.m. now. Welcome everyone to our next episode of the Doers series. Those of you who have attended our previous webinars are aware that the idea behind the Doers series. Basically, the webinar series discusses concepts from the point of view of actual implementation and not at a 30,000 feet level. While vision and strategy are definitely important, there are various challenges in implementation, and that's what the Doers series tries to help with. We have been talking about employee engagement a lot, particularly in the last 6 to 9 months. But how do you improve something without measuring it, and how to measure it? That's what we are going to discuss today. And we have a very qualified person to talk about this, Saurav. Saurav has more than 14 years of experience across different industries and companies like Mercer, Aon, Korn Ferry, in the corporate HR side, in companies like InMobi. And he's worked across different functions and areas like strategy, design, performance and rewards management, career architecture, leadership development now. So I think he's in the right position to tell us about how to go about measuring employee engagement, how to take the feedback, and how to action it. So before we get started on that, just a couple of things. This is going to be about 40 odd minutes of presentation with 15 minutes of Q&A. But in the meantime, get your questions coming, keep your questions coming, and we will take it at the end of the presentation. And yes, the presentation will be recorded and shared with you by tomorrow or early next week. Okay. So over to you, Saurav. Take it out.
Thank you so much, Partha, and love this opportunity with Vantage Circle to drive webinars like this. I personally, like Partha mentioned, have about 13, 14 years of corporate HR consulting experience, post which then I decided to move into line HR, wanted to get a flavor of implementation and execution, and I realized that there was so much for me to learn. And that's where I feel that it's very important that when we talk about some of these concepts, when we get into the depth of them, we have to take an implementation view on it. And that's where I find the beauty and the value of the Vantage Doers series. So without wasting any further time, I'm going to get started. We'll try to keep this session a little interactive. There are certain concepts that I will want to talk about before we get into how do we measure and act on feedback. And I would love for each of you to get involved in that, share your views. So we'll be doing some live polls, etc., as we go through today's webinar. Also, if you have any questions, please put it on the chat and we'll take them up at the end of the presentation. So here's a view into what we'll be covering today. To start by talking a little bit about employee engagement. All of us have a fairly good understanding of it, but it'll be good to refresh some of our concepts and some of our thinking around what exactly is employee engagement. Then we'll get into talking about approaches to measure engagement. Then go deep into some of the tools and the processes for employee engagement measurement. And the last part, which is analyzing and acting on employee feedback, that can be a session by itself, but at least end today's session with a little bit of a primer on what do you do when you have this feedback? How should you be going about doing action planning? Just some guidelines and pointers on it. So getting straight into what is employee engagement all about. And here's what I said, would love to have all of you participate and and get involved in this exercise. So would request you if you can open your browsers, go to a website called menti.com, menti.com. It'll ask you for a code, enter the code 7113 And it's a simple exercise. Just share one word that, in your opinion, best characterizes engaged employees. And of course, you can have as many submissions as you want, but each submission, just submit one word and let's try to build out a word cloud of what employee engagement is all about. So I'm just going to also open the Menti page so that you can see that and see the results getting populated as we get into this. So we're already seeing some things come up. Collaboration, positive culture, productive. Productive is a very important theme. Happy, commitment. I love that someone's put in psychological investment. I think that's a great term. So I think if you look at this, and maybe we can pause now, we have a good summary over here, but some of the big themes that are coming out are around productivity, are around motivation, are around psychological investment, and of course, importantly, attrition or retention. And that's pretty much what uh, one of my ex companies, Aon Hewitt, very nicely describes it as that engagement is really about three things. Say, how positively do your employees talk to each other about the organization? What do they say to people outside? Do they recommend the company to others? Stay in terms of wanting to stay on and be a part of the organization. And this again gets asked in the Aon Hewitt framework through two questions. It would take a lot to get me to leave the organization. And I rarely think about leaving this organization to work somewhere else. And while they might sound like very similar questions, there is a subtle nuance between them. One is whether I'm thinking actively about leaving the organization. The other is, okay, uh, I've, I've, how much will it take to get me to leave? So whether I'm thinking about it, whether I plan to act on it. And the third one, which is probably the most important, which is strive. So are employees motivated? Are they willing to put in extra effort to help the company succeed? In the Mercer framework, they call it discretionary effort. Other frameworks refer to it in other ways. But across all the consulting firms, as well as across what each of you have shared, is these three big themes that come out. So why does engagement matter? And once again, I'm going to be lazy over here and have you all do the work. So let's go back to menti.com. Once again, the same survey code. And let's list down what are some of the benefits of having an engaged workforce. Great. So we can see the results coming in. Benefits of having an engaged workforce: low attrition, productivity, great team. Low attrition is standing big and tall right now. Company results, yes. Most importantly, any of our HR interventions ultimately need to boil down to how are we moving the needle for the company in terms of business results. And I think that's extremely important. All these themes actually build into this larger picture of what business results are we able to drive. Waste reduction, that's interesting, and that's a very good point, that engaged employees are so psychologically invested in the company that they will go out to try and save costs for the company, to try and preserve and protect things for the company. In fact, in my previous company at InMobi, that was one thing that we were really proud of, which was the level of engagement. And one of the things that I used to just observe is how often do people switch off the lights in the conference room when they're leaving the conference room? How do they leave their desks? Some of these visual indicators are also great signs of whether you have engaged team members or not. So great. Thank you so much for this. Great having you all participate. Let's move back to the main deck. So I think one quote from Simon Sinek, who's great author, great TED Talk speaker. You should listen to some of his talks if you haven't. But a great quote from him is, when people are financially invested, they want a return. But when they're emotionally invested, they want to contribute. And I think I go back to what one of you put down: psychological commitment, psychological investment. That really is what engagement probably means, if I have to sum it up in 2 words. So now let's talk about, okay, all this talk about employee engagement. Why is it important to collect feedback? And I'll let you read through some of these quotes. I think the most powerful one for me over here is about how it's important while building a relationship to listen to the other side, for both sides to listen to each other. We, as HR professionals, we keep telling our line managers that reach out to your teams, engage with your teams, talk to your teams, seek feedback from your teams, and share feedback proactively. And over here, it needs to be done at an organizational level, where the organization is reaching out and telling employees, what are you liking? What are you not liking? What would you like done differently? What are your views about the organization? And a little bit of a story to help you understand how important this becomes. So this is my, when I had just joined InMobi, and this is 2013. I don't know if some of you are aware of one interesting social media trend that had started that time. There was an app called Secret.ly. Secret.ly was this very, very strange app where people could go and submit anonymous feedback about anyone or anything. And at least in the startup ecosystem, it became a big thing. Suddenly, there were a lot of employees making very pointed comments about others. Deepti is asking if I could repeat the name of that site. It was Secret.ly. I think it's been shut down now. But Secret.ly was the name, and there was a lot of ruckus in the startup ecosystem because a lot of startup employees were suddenly going in, writing all kinds of stuff about their organizations, about their co-workers. And we faced that brunt at InMobi as well. We of course did not have too much of negative stuff being said about the company itself. In general, we always believed that our employees are engaged, they're very happy. But there was a lot of stuff that started figuring about specific individuals, about specific leaders. And that's when I had just joined this organization, and I asked Naveen, who was our CEO, that, Naveen, are we doing anything to capture employee feedback? Are we giving people a chance to speak? Are we doing any sort of employee listening? Do we have an engagement survey in place? And his answer was, no, we don't. So I said, Naveen, it's very important. People feel passionately about the company. Now that passion has to come out somewhere. It can come out positively. It can also come out negatively. What we need to do is give people a platform that we can manage, that we can control, and we can get insights from, and yet give people that opportunity to speak up and share what they feel. And I sold him the idea of conducting an engagement survey. Now, of course, in true startup style, he said, great idea, go ahead and do the engagement survey. So I said, great, it'll cost about 10 to 15 lakhs. And he's like, there's no money. Please go figure it out. Go do it yourself. So we embarked on this interesting mission to try and run our internal engagement survey, self-administered. Some very interesting stories around that. And if we get time, I'd love to share more experiences around that. But going back to this, The point was that people had not got an opportunity from the organization to share their feedback. And that's where the disconnect was happening. And then they were finding all kinds of channels like this secretly, where some of these sentiments, some of these passions came out, and not in the most positive manner. Jack Welch says something very interesting, saying that there are just three measurements that tell you everything that you need to know about your organization's overall performance. And those three things are employee engagement, customer satisfaction, and cash flow. Or SHRM, if you read on their blogs, this very interesting article that I was reading, which says the simple fact that the organization is conducting a survey, just the fact that you're doing a survey can send a positive message to employees that their opinions are valued. And that's pretty much what happened to us at InMobi. And Mercer tells us that using talent analytics to inform decision making, so reaching out to people, getting their data, studying that quantitative as well as qualitative data, and making decisions, that is the single most important HR trend that has delivered an impact. So out of all the things that HR has been doing, the single thing that has created the maximum impact is being able to take data, crunch that data, and get insights from it. And of course, the guru of management himself, Peter Drucker, I think what he says just sums it all, and that's the bottom line. Only what gets measured gets managed. If we are not collecting employee feedback, if we are not measuring employee engagement, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. So with that introduction, let's get a little deeper into what are some of the approaches that are used to measure employee engagement. And once again, I'm going to ask all of you to participate. We've got a bunch of options over here, and help us decide which you believe is the most effective way to measure employee engagement. So once again, please go to menti.com, enter 7796642. And the options are employee engagement survey, annual employee engagement survey, pulse survey, employee one-on-ones, workforce analytics, floor walks, employee focus groups, and social media analysis. So I'm just going to now share the Menti screen. And we already have some nice data that's come in. So once again, for those who might have missed it, please go to menti.com, use the code 7796642. So this is different from the previous code, and tell us which of these you believe are the most effective way to measure employee engagement. So far, we have employee one-on-ones and annual survey in the lead. Just give everyone maybe 15 seconds more. Great. So let's close this survey. We've got employee one-on-ones in the clear lead, with 10 people having voted for that. Employee focus groups. So clearly, the people who have responded, we seem to believe that qualitative data, qualitative feedback, stuff that you can actually get by speaking to people is the most effective. So it's interesting to see that that this group also came up with this. Traditional thinking has been about the annual engagement survey. That is the one survey that we will do through the year, or maybe once in 2 years in some of the older organizations. It's an important approach, and I'm glad to see that not everyone put in put in that as the single most important one. Uh, Actually, before I talk about the annual survey, let me share my views on this. In my mind, there is no prioritization of saying this is the most important. In my mind, it's all of these coming together, whether your employee engagement survey gives you certain results, certain trends at that point of time. Through pulse surveys, you get to see how things are moving across various points of time in the year. Employee one-on-ones, of course, extremely critical, getting to know through the course of the year what is happening with each employee. And I think what's very important is how are you capturing what is the output or what are the insights from the employee one-on-ones? How are you correlating that to the larger employee engagement scores? How are you acting on some of those feedbacks? Because it's very common that we'll conduct these one-on-ones, we'll take some notes, but what happens to those notes? How do they get used? That is what is critical. I'm going to talk about workforce analytics. That's a very, very interesting space that has come up. And there's some exciting research from Harvard Business Review that I'd like to share with you in a subsequent slide about workforce analytics, as well as about social media analysis. Employee focus groups and floor walks. Floor walks, something as simple as just going around the floor, just talking to people, and at the same time observing how are people sitting, are they talking to each other, are people too engrossed in what they are doing, what's the level of buzz on the floor. These are some, again, very, very interesting things. And you'll see that especially in startups where you have this open office culture, it's not just about equality, it's not just about showing approachability as the CEO or as the top management. And that's not the only reason why they don't sit in cabins. One of the reasons why they also choose to sit on the floor is because then when you're sitting on the floor, you can observe what's happening. Every now and then you just get up, maybe walk to the water cooler, take a look around. How are people interacting with each other? What is the general expression on people's faces? And these are important things as well. So in my mind, there is no single most effective approach. Each of these approaches has their own merit. And the most effective approach is actually how do you take data across each of these observations, put it together and build your larger, more cohesive story. So coming back to the annual engagement survey, there was this interesting piece from Aon, is the annual employee engagement survey dead? And this was talking about how for a lot of companies, the thinking has become so much about, oh, what is the employee engagement score that we were targeting? Oh, our target was 75%. If we get less than 75%, we won't get bonuses. And that's when it stops making so much sense. That's when we lose sight of the true purpose of these surveys. The true purpose of these surveys is not to make sure that you hit a particular percentage so that everyone gets bonuses. Or some very, very interesting research on the other side from Gartner, where they're talking about how there is a slight decline in the usage of annual employee survey versus other employee monitoring data. And increasingly, we're seeing that fewer organizations are banking solely on the engagement survey, and increasingly they are bringing in other forms of observation. Hello?
Yeah, sir.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, great. Sorry, I thought I heard some disturbance on my headphones. So that's where we see that this trend is changing. People are increasingly moving away from using the annual engagement survey as the primary source of input. Does that mean it's over? Does that mean it's not required anymore? Absolutely not. There are huge merits of the annual engagement survey, but increasingly organizations are saying this cannot be a sole measure of employee engagement. And let's talk a little bit more about why that's happening. So increasingly organizations are saying that yes, we need an annual engagement survey because it tells us the larger themes. It gives us very credible quantitative benchmarks. I think someone's saying they can't hear the audio anymore. I hope the others can hear me. So I'm assuming that people can hear me, or
I can. Yeah.
okay. Great. Thank you, Partha. Thank you, Durga. So the annual employee engagement survey uh, gives you some very, very comprehensive data. It allows you to do year-on-year analysis. You can, for someone like me who's extremely fond of detailed analytics, doing detailed regression, uh, searching for things like multicollinearity and seeing what impacts what variable impacts another variable. Some very rich insights come out from the annual engagement survey. At the same time, what happens is that you've conducted it once in a year. The data can be dated. People don't say I was engaged. This is not marriage where you say you got engaged in December and now you're hitched for life. You conducted your annual engagement survey in December. Things could look extremely different in February. Things could look extremely different in June. Uh, and of course, it's cumbersome. It takes a lot of time. So you can't run this annual survey, this whole hog. You can't run it multiple times in a year. It's going to be exhausting for the team that's administering it. It's going to be exhausting for the team that's analyzing the data, and importantly, it's going to be exhausting for your employees to fill out such a long survey every time. And yes, someone pointed out on the chat, cost is again a deterrent sometimes for organizations. And I gave you my own example where I was told, please go ahead, conduct this employee engagement survey for almost 1,000 employees, but you have zero budget for it. So yes, cost can be a deterrent. So what organizations today are saying is that we will do the annual survey. We'll do one survey a year. That is going to give us our rich data and our insights, which we'll use for our action planning. But throughout the course of the year, we're going to do what are called pulse surveys. What are pulse surveys? These are fast, frequent surveys, at most 5 questions at a time. You don't have to do them across the entire organization. You typically choose pockets of employees who you will cover every time, and it gives you a real-time view of the engagement conditions at that particular moment. Typically, less than 10 questions makes it much more convenient for employees to answer. Yes, it does not give you the historical overviews, but that's where the beauty comes in. Can we take our pulse survey data and correlate that to what we saw in the annual engagement survey? Data that comes in is immediate and you can act on it fast. You can give that feedback to managers. You can very quickly identify any short-term trends which can turn into larger issues. So you can start acting on them here and now. And that's where increasingly the preferred approach amongst organizations is do an annual engagement survey and at the same time do regular pulse surveys throughout the course of the year and correlate the feedback, correlate the data that you're getting from these two sources. I'm sorry, I believe someone can still not hear. I hope the audio issue gets sorted at your end. If not, you will have the recording of this webinar. Now, this is what I was talking about. Some of the latest research from Harvard Business Review, which is talking about, yes, you're getting data that the employees are providing, but there could be biases even in that. Some of the cleanest data, some of the most interesting data can actually come from just observing what's happening in the workplace. How much is the amount of work that occurs outside of the normal working hours? How much happens in the evenings, on weekends? This is telling you how much how much discretionary effort they're willing to put in. Not that it's a great thing from a work-life balance perspective. You don't want your employees to be working late evenings and weekends. But if they are, there's a reason why they're doing it. Because they believe that they need to put in this effort and they're willing to go ahead and do that. And that's one thing that you'll see a lot in startups. Partha will probably tell you about even at Vantage Circle. Employees themselves will come and say that, no, we have this work, we own this work. Doesn't matter if we have to stretch, we want to make this happen. The number of network connections and time spent with people outside of the immediate team or region. Of course, I'm going to spend time with my immediate team, but do I want to interact with people outside of my team? Is there a common familial bond that I feel with the rest of the organization? when you have these broad networks outside of your core team, that is a sign of high engagement. Or how much is the participation ad hoc meetings and initiatives versus recurring meetings? Or if it's only structured events, if it's only these uh, formal meetings where people are coming and engaging versus something as simple. In fact, again, I'm going to take an InMobi example. I'm not trying to say that InMobi did everything right, but there were certain areas where I truly believe that as an HR professional, it was an eye opener even for me in the fresh way of thinking about employee engagement and how to do things. So there would be times when our CEO would just come as part of his floor walks and suddenly he'd stand in the middle of the floor and he'd just say, okay, guys, can we gather around? And suddenly everyone would come around and they're listening to everything that he's saying and he's giving updates of business on a real time basis saying, oh, we cracked this big account and I wanted to share with you that we did this and this and this. And people would be excited. People would be applauding. They would be highly involved in it. The last one, time spent collaborating directly with customers outside of the normal scope of work. So again, a sign of discretionary effort. You don't care, am I going to get credit for this or am I not? I'm doing it because I care about my company. These are things which you don't need to conduct surveys for. If you actually build in some observation mechanisms in into your workforce analytics, you can actually really pull these out. You can pull these out qualitatively, and today you also have tools that allow you to do it quantitatively. There are tools that will actually go through people's activity on email. Of course, you're not reading people's emails, but it looks at the number of emails exchanged. It looks at how much time does it take for a person to open a mail and respond to an email. Uh, there is interesting stuff that's happening on the NLP side across AI and ML, where they're trying to see can we do sentiment analysis through the way people are conversing with each other uh, in structured communication. So all of these things are increasingly adding to the sphere of measurement of employee engagement and being able to take informed decisions on the basis of what the trends in the organization are. So I would highly recommend that you all read this particular article. It's a free article on Harvard Business Review. It's called A Primer on Measuring Employee Engagement. And it talks about some of these new approaches that organizations are doing. In fact, leading organizations today are saying that we're going to take a very holistic voice of the employee approach to measuring engagement. Those of you who are familiar with marketing terminology would have heard of voice of customer. So this is taking the customer centric view for employees and saying, can we look at voice of the employee approach? And what does the voice of the employee approach mean? It's across multiple different things. It's the annual survey, which helps you get your year-on-year comparisons, determine your linkages, set your baselines and targets. You have pulse surveys, which are frequent measurement, specific, timely inputs. Any course correction that is required, you can adjust on the basis of the pulse surveys. There's social analytics, analyzing relationship and work patterns across email, across corporate social networks, or how are employees interacting with each other. And these are both quantitative and qualitative observations that go in. And it helps alert you towards any downward trends, isolated individuals or clusters. One of the biggest limitations of an annual employee engagement survey is that it gives you lag indicators. And increasingly, as an organization, you want more and more lead indicators. So what you see on the left-hand side are more of lead indicators. There are early warning signs of things that could be going wrong. Employee sentiment analytics. So signals of engagement that employees transmit through their daily interactions within email, instant messenger, texting, surveys. Or in fact, what was very interesting in my HR consulting days, we would see that organizations which don't have very engaged workforces tend to have lower participation rates in engagement surveys as well. So if people are not even participating in a survey, then that's a much, much bigger sign of disengagement, leave alone what your survey scores tell you. And of course, all this comes together with employee one-on-ones, conducting focus groups, doing floor walks. So all of it is a fairly integrated, well-knit, it's a well-knit, holistic, comprehensive framework. Uh, Someone has asked, please, can we have the document mailed to us after the meeting? Yes. The presentation as well as the recording of this webinar will be shared with all attendees. Another very interesting approach is to take an employee life cycle approach. And this is something that Aon Hewitt tends to recommend. And they're saying that let's look at the life cycle of each employee right from pre-employment, before the time that they joined. What was their candidate experience? What was our offer decline ratio? Were we able to engage candidates at that stage itself? Then the moment they've come on board, how was your onboarding experience? What do you feel about the value proposition uh, that that you observe? Because most of us do tend to make immediate short-term uh, short-term uh, decisions about whether we like the company or we don't like the company, and then we typically tend to, most new employees tend to form that initial perception about the company in the first 2 weeks, and then the rest of the time over the next few months is really about validating that or discarding that hypothesis about whether you like the company or not in the first place. Then they talk about doing onboarding surveys when a person has completed 3 months or 6 months. Uh, they talk about doing service anniversary engagement surveys. So instead of doing a survey for the entire organization at one point of time in the year, another way to solve for this thing that engagement survey is one-time feedback is to do it rolling across each employee's anniversary. And that's another great way of also reinforcing to employees that your opinion matters. Also, you spent a year with us, you spent 2 years with us, you've had an anniversary with us. How do you feel about the last year that went by? Someone has asked, what is EVP? EVP is employee value proposition. So what is it that the organization is able to offer to the to employees as part of the overall employment deal, which includes your salary, it includes benefits, it includes learning and growth opportunities, it includes how employees feel treated by the organization, etc. So it's the entire thing that employees get as by virtue of working with the company. So the service anniversary engagement survey approach is another very interesting approach. And then you have an exit survey and post-employment surveys, keeping in touch with your alumni and trying to see what do they feel. And that's very, very interesting and very powerful as well, because what do people say about you after they have left the company is probably a lot more important than or a lot more meaningful than what they were saying when they were inside the company. Because when they're inside the company, people still feel sometimes a little hesitant. But the moment they go out, they see what the outside world is like. And that's where they also have a benchmark and a comparison with what was their experience in while they were working with you. So this is another very holistic, comprehensive approach to measuring employee engagement. Apart from this, they also talk about hiring manager and recruiting experience surveys, quality of hires surveys, and various ad hoc surveys as and when required for specific timely topics. And this ad hoc surveys, once again, kind of points to the overall pulse surveys. So measuring pulse at various points of time through the year. So now that we've spoken about some of the approaches that I use to measure employee engagement, let's get into what are some of the tools and what are the processes that I used. Some of the points to consider when you're looking at an employee survey. First of all, what is the ownership and accountability? Who owns it? Who's accountable for it? And my simple recommendation is HR owns the process. HR does not own employee engagement. Employee engagement is collectively owned by the leadership, which includes the HR stakeholders as well. And managers are the ones who have to be held accountable for the engagement results. In terms of timing and frequency, I would recommend an annual survey to establish your benchmarks, conduct your action planning, and do regular pulse surveys to track trends, get specific feedback. What's very important to consider is your survey strategy. Why are we conducting the survey in the first place? What do we want to know? What are we looking to gain out of this? What are we measuring actually? And who will we ask to participate in the survey? A lot of organizations today, especially with the number of gig workers increasing, contract employees increasing, believe that it's equally important to measure engagement and include their gig workers and contractors in these surveys. Who will create the questions? What questions should be reused from past surveys? Should they be rewritten because they were vague and confusing in the last survey? What new questions should be added? Again, it's very important to also be doing year-on-year analysis or temporal analysis from period 1 to period 2. How have things changed? So while you do want to mix up questions and you want to add more questions, there are certain questions that need to be kept standard. In fact, Gallup has a core framework where they say there are 12 questions that we will always ask in every engagement survey. Apart from that, you can add, delete, do whatever you want, but 12 questions are critical. Who will administer the survey? What tools will we use? How will we drive participation? This becomes very important, especially for some of you who might be looking at conducting internally administered surveys. How do we get people to participate? It's very different when I know a third party is doing it. My opinion is going to be anonymous. But how do I make sure that if I'm submitting it internally, then action is not going to be taken against me for anything that I say? Or will all the results be communicated? If so, how will we be doing it? Who will be held accountable for implementing changes driven by survey results? And what you'll see coming out of this, and some very nice inputs that I picked up from SHRM. But what's coming out of this is be very clear what do you want to measure, and very importantly, what are you going to do about it? Don't just go in for a survey without having thought through how are we going to use these results? How are we going to communicate it? The moment you ask people for their opinion, they will want to know, okay, you asked us. Now, what did you find out from us? And what are you doing about it? Some guidelines and recommendations: try to keep surveys short and simple. Gone are the days of 100 question surveys. People don't have that kind of time. Avoid double-barreled items. If you're asking about satisfaction on pay, then ask about satisfaction on pay. If you're asking about satisfaction on benefits, ask about satisfaction on benefits. I've seen survey questionnaires which say, tell me your overall satisfaction on pay and benefits. It gets confusing for the respondent as well. Should I respond on pay? I'm unhappy with my pay. Very few people are happy with pay, but they might be very happy with benefits. So what do they respond about? In fact, it's recommended that involve your employees in the design and the analysis itself. It's common among organizations to create a task force, seek volunteers from the employee base and say, why don't you come and join us and help us in co-designing and co-administering this survey? Asking right questions, using neutral statements so that you're not planting the answers for someone. It's neutral statements. They can respond the way they interpret it and the way they feel is the right way to answer it. Anonymity and confidentiality is extremely important if you want to get real feedback. Yes, and I've had these discussions in the past with people at a philosophical level. If people truly care about the organization, why should they hold back from sharing their name? Well, the fact is that yes, people believe in the organization, but they don't know how individuals are going to take things. So it's important to make them feel assured that what you're doing is constructive. We will take it constructively. One of the best practices is to give an option that would you like to be contacted for more information and would you be willing to share your name? But don't make it a mandatory field that you have to share your name. And most importantly, surveys is just one part of your engagement measurement approach. Try to go beyond the surveys, deep dive into issues. In fact, it's very common amongst organizations, even after the annual engagement survey, to then pick up some of the key themes and deep dive into those themes by conducting focus groups with employees. There are different engagement models across different consulting firms as far as the annual survey is concerned. So Aon Hewitt has a framework that looks at brand, leadership, performance. Gallup, I mentioned, has the Q12. But effectively, the process, approaches, tools are largely similar. So this is a sample that I picked up from a company called Bridge I2I. So it's really 4 phases: the design of the survey, the execution of the survey, the analysis, recommendations. Typical process takes anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. And the results look somewhat like this. You have an overall dashboard, tells you what the overall engagement scores are looking like, tells you how things are looking on different levers. This one is from Mercer. The reason I've taken examples from three of the top consulting firms is to give you a sense that it's pretty much the same. All these firms, at least in my opinion, and having worked for at least two of them, I can tell you that uh, they might use different terminology, they might use slightly different tweaked frameworks, but a lot of it is just saying the same thing, presenting it in different ways. So it's really a function of your budgets, your beliefs, what your management team believes will be the right partner for you. I do recommend going with a third party from an administration perspective because of reasons of confidentiality, like I mentioned, as well as these companies will have advanced analytics capabilities. If you have them internally, great. But the moment you then look at it internally, there's confidentiality issues again. So I would recommend going with one of the big uh, consulting firms. You also have a lot of boutique outfits which are doing interesting work around engagement measurement. But for annual employee engagement, it's really a function of your budgets and what your beliefs are. Where it gets interesting is the pulse surveys, because pulse surveys, the approach needs to be a little different. Why is it different? There's certain design imperatives. First of all, you're talking about fast and frequent surveys. You're wanting to track trends over a period of time. Questions get customized almost every time. It's not the same set of questions that you're asking all the time. There are different questions that you might want to administer to different employee groups or to different functions or to different levels of employees or people in different offices. Or there's real-time feedback and monitoring that you want happening. You should be able to link the larger themes from the annual survey, bring it in over here. And you want to make it super easy for employees to participate. If you're going to be asking them a question every now and then, you want to make it as easy for them to participate in this. What does that mean? Typically, for pulse surveys, you would go with a year-round contract with your survey partner. That means it's a recurring expense. Cost considerations become even more important. It's preferable to have an integration with your HRIS so that you can very easily say, okay, with this segment, I want to roll it out. With that segment, I want to roll it out. This is what the trends is looking like for this team, for this department, etc. Technology used for administration. So make it as easy, like I said, focus on UX. So increasingly, pulse survey tools are not just desktop driven, but will be available on the mobile with a nice clean interface, makes it as easy for employees to participate. And that's where, amongst various other players, Vantage also has an offering. And I found the Vantage offering fairly interesting. And since Partha was kind enough to give me detailed screenshots, I thought I would use this to just showcase what pulse surveys look like. Now, there are easy to use feature rich platforms that typically pulse surveys or any credible pulse survey partner will provide to you. So you go very simple. Step one, select what are the survey questions. Typically, most pulse survey companies will have a menu of questions that are available, and you just select, okay, this are the questions I want to send to group A. These are the questions I want to send to group B. Very easy to use, customizable interfaces. Send out the survey to employees, analyze the results. What are the advantages? Real-time insights, compatible with all devices, detailed survey dashboards, and let's see what some of the output could look like. Sorry, this is not very clear, but what you can see over here is detailed trend analysis. So you're seeing across this timeline how engagement trends are varying. What does our net promoter score, our internal net promoter score across our employees look like? What are the areas that are trending upwards? What are the areas that are trending downwards? What is the participation itself looking like? I had mentioned participation is actually a proxy for telling you how engaged employees are. And then you can see scores by department, by areas. So some very nice analytics that are now available across pulse survey platforms. So that's in terms of some of the tools and processes. We can go much deeper into this, but I am cognizant of our time constraints, and I do want to spend time on some Q&A. So getting into the last section, which is analyzing and acting on employee feedback. Again, some great words of wisdom from Gallup first. The three elements are key to increasing employee engagement: measuring employee engagement, conducting impact planning, and then implementing the changes. Please keep that in mind. That's something that I've said in the beginning as well. It's very important to make sure that you're not just measuring or collecting feedback for the sake of collecting feedback. There has to be a clear intent to analyze that feedback and then to act on that feedback to implement the changes. And it becomes like a cycle that you must follow. Some stats through one of the Aon Hewitt Best Employer surveys, they said managers who reviewed survey results and identified actions had an overall engagement score of 63% versus just 27% for managers who had access to results but did not even review them. That's how powerful it is to just actually be looking at the results, reviewing the results, and saying, what am I going to do about it? From Achievers, we have another quote. 90% of workers say they are more likely to stay at an employer that takes and acts on feedback. 44% of those who call their company horrible at acting on feedback plan to look for a new job versus just 28% who said their company is awesome at acting on feedback. That's how important it is to act on this feedback that we're getting. Just some guidelines, crucial steps towards impact planning. Introduce the impact planning session, state its purpose, help employees understand what engagement is, why did we conduct this survey, what were we measuring, what do these survey items mean to you as an employee and to your work group, and why is impact planning important. So it's important to educate employees, communicate to them very clearly what you're doing. You can have the best survey tools, you can have the best analysis going on, but if people don't understand what this is all about, or they don't believe that you're going to do something about it, it still comes to naught. You need to distribute and explain the survey results. Those results can be bad, doesn't matter. Own up to it and say, this is what we found, this is what we are now looking to act on, and we need you to come and participate. The fact that people have shared feedback means that they care. Now it's just about taking that thing of what is not happening well and giving it a constructive spin and saying, okay, it's not working well. We get that. Now, what are we going to do about it? Help us identify it. Let's work on it together. Discuss what those results mean for each work group, item by item. In fact, one approach that we followed in the past in some of the companies that I've consulted with, as well as at InMobi, was to take this, the feedback scores, give it to the managers and ask them to have discussions within their teams and say, okay, what does this mean to us? How do we feel about these larger results? What are some of the ideas that we believe we can work on? Then you need to come up with larger org-wide themes, 2 or 3 key things to work on the next 12 months. Don't make it a laundry list. Pick the 3 most impactful ones. And that's where, again, from the annual engagement survey, you'll see that a lot of survey houses today give you impact analysis. They tell you that these might be the areas where you scored low, but it's not that you will pick up the area where you scored least and say that that is going to be something that I'm going to prioritize. A lot of times you might have a much higher impact of working on some other area. The overall impact on engagement is going to be higher. For those of you who are a little familiar with regression analysis, it's basically the ones where the coefficients are higher. It's not about the absolute value, but the coefficient is the highest. And that's where you say that that will have the maximum impact on engagement. Brainstorm follow-up actions and complete a plan for improvement. Most importantly, follow up regularly on your plan. Ask how people are feeling about the team's progress towards meeting its goals. That again takes us back to what I was talking about, the pulse surveys. So the pulse surveys, in my mind, are probably something, if you're not doing it, please think about doing it. It's not enough to get feedback once in a year. It's not enough to just look at qualitative feedback. Bring it all together, and pulse surveys are an important, very, very valuable tool in assessing how things are going from period to period across different parts of the organization. So with that, I'm closing my slides, opening this up to question and answers. Partha, over to you.
Hey, Thanks a lot, Saurav. And I think there's a lot of material, and it's and 1 hour doesn't do justice to this topic. But the whole idea is to introduce the topic, and for people to go deeper into this. So it's just an overview of what all is possible. What are other companies doing? What are some of the leading companies doing? And then see what works best for you. And of course, you have to dig deeper into any of these areas before you implement anything. One thing which I want to add on the Pulse surveys is also Pulse survey is also a very statistical tool, which means that you don't need answers from everyone in the company to get a pulse. Okay, a lot of people talked about one-to-one surveys. I think in the survey which we did just right now, one-to-one. So the Pulse surveys, statistically speaking, even if 5% people, as long as they're random sample, can give you a good pulse of the company. And that is the importance or beauty of a Pulse survey. Just like, the election results can be predicted by 2,000 people approximately. I mean, they can give you the same Pulse surveys can give you just by a handful of people giving you answers. You can get a pulse of that. The annual surveys, of course, everyone needs to fill up that thing. Everyone needs to get involved here. 5% random people. So that's a very important characteristic of Pulse surveys also. So, and I know because of this topic, we have overshot the time, but we'll still have another 5 minutes remaining on this. Let's take the questions. Some of the questions which are there, let me just read out. So how important is the training and development, I guess, for employees as well as for managers to have employee engagement? How much do you need to really do some training sessions to get these surveys going? I think that's what I thought the question was.
So I'll answer this in two different ways because I'm not sure of the exact context of the question. The first part of the question could be how important is training and development in contributing to overall employee engagement? And I think the answer is extremely important. Do we have an exact benchmark or a number? No. But what I would point you to is this interesting work which is done around the theory of motivation. Dan Ariely is a TED Talk speaker who you must listen to. If you can get hold of his book, even better. But he talks about 3 fundamental drivers for people in terms of motivation. And he talks about autonomy, mastery as being the 2 most important. And the third one being purpose. Now, if you look at it, autonomy is about how much can I go. So, Ritu, please look up Dan Ariely. So what he talks about is autonomy, which is that I'm able to get things done on my own. I'm not being overly micromanaged. I can think for myself. Mastery, I'm getting better and better at what I'm doing, or I can do more things. And purpose, that there is something larger that I'm accomplishing, some larger value that I'm driving through this. And therefore, if you look, mastery is really coming from training and development. And it's extremely critical that this is one of the fundamental drivers for people to be engaged and motivated. From the other side, how important is training and development when you're conducting a survey? Again, the answer is extremely important. People should know what you are conducting the survey for. What are you trying to measure? What will happen with these results? Especially in younger organizations which have younger workforce, people tend to be skeptical. Why are you asking me so many questions? Why are you suddenly so interested in knowing all these things about me? There again, the approach when it comes to an annual engagement survey versus if you create a culture of continuous employee listening, continuous employee feedback, which gets enabled through these pulse surveys, you're far more effective, far more impactful when you create that culture of employee listening as opposed to doing it as a once in a year exercise.
Interesting. So we'll just take one more question. So I think there's this question regarding performance management. To how can leaders use performance management to drive engagement? Again, I'm not very sure of the question. Of course, there's a correlation between performance management, performance and engagement. But do you think the performance management tools itself can be used? Maybe that's a part of the question. Or how can leaders use, or the exact wording is, how can leaders use performance management to drive engagement?
So I think it's interesting, and it brings me back to the stuff I was quoting from Harvard Business Review, which is saying that it's a lot of times when you just look at your performance management system results, how many people, and if you were to look at it from the perspective of companies that are doing away with the bell curve, just look at how are our employees, what are their raw ratings looking like before we do any sort of normalization, or how many people are getting in the top rating, how many people are coming into the lower rating. From that, can we assess how many people are putting in additional discretionary effort? If more and more people are putting in discretionary effort, that also indicates high levels of engagement. And sometimes, in fact, it's very important to differentiate within the performance management system what was the level of effort versus what was the level of capability. In fact, in startups, this becomes very important because a lot of times you have employees who are juggling multiple hats or are taking on stretch roles. A lot of times they do not have the right capability for the role that they're doing, but through sheer effort, through sheer determination, they're able to plow through a lot of things. And that is a huge sign of engaged employees. I might still not give that employee an outstanding in terms of their feedback because I do need to assess results at the end of the day. But I do need some sort of reinforcement for that employee that, yes, you are doing a lot, you care a lot. And as an organization, we are going to enable you further. We are going to give you those training and development opportunities so that you're better equipped to do your role or better equipped to take on the next role.
Perfect. So I think we've just crossed our time. So we'll end it here, but we will be sending this recording as well as the presentation by tomorrow Saturday. So maybe Monday, all the attendees will be getting a copy of the recording. Thanks, Saurabh, and thanks to everyone for spending the time with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure.